Hey everyone, I am back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. I hope that you've had a really fantastic and amazing week. For those of you who are joining for the very first time, welcome. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment, talking all things mental wellness, how to become the best version of who you are so you can show up for yourself and for those around you. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. Or if you are watching on YouTube, welcome, welcome. Be sure to like and subscribe and share this video. And again, hope you all are doing amazing. So let me know. Thanks for those who are starting to join here. Let me know in the chat where you are tuning in from today. Today, I am in very, very hot and humid Tampa Bay of Florida. And hi, thanks so much for joining here. I am ready for this weather to lighten up some. I am a Floridian and I'm used to it, but of course we're right in the thick of super ridiculously hot weather, it feels like. So on today's mental health moment, again, for those of you who are new, mental health moment is all about how do you become the best version of who you are so you can show up for yourself and for those around you, right? So one of the things I want to talk to you all about today is this notion of setting boundaries. Setting boundaries. Super critical when it comes to your mental wellness, when it comes to you being the best version of who you are, when it comes to you showing up for yourself and for those around you, because a lot of times there's so many things that try to get our attention. There's so many people, there's so many things, right? We're surrounded by it, whether it's social media, whether it's family members, whether it's friends, or whatever it is for you that can be really overwhelming. It's really important that you set the appropriate boundaries for yourself. Now, what that looks like, though, varies depending on your needs. So first, I'm going to have you put in the chat. Let me know when you think of for you, what is overwhelming? What is stressful? Is there some area of your life? You don't have to put a specific person's name. Please don't in the chat. We don't want to start any wars here, but maybe it's a family member. You can maybe put family, or is it friends, or is it work, or is it social media, or is it something else? What area of your life would you say right now, like, man, this is overwhelming. Maybe I need to put some boundaries into place. So let me know, put it in the chat. Again, there's no right or wrong answers. This is about you, right? Because one of the things of mental health moment that I've been teaching for many, many years, right, is we have to check in with ourselves. The answer you write today may or may not be the answer that you decide 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. And that's okay, right? We are at different points of our lives, different things stress us out, different boundaries we need to put in place at certain times, right? But for you, what is it for you that you're like, man, I'm so overwhelmed in this area of my life and I need to put some boundaries into place? Here's the thing when it comes to setting boundaries, because I'm not, again, we're all at different points in our lives. Probably you're an adult watching this right now, right? So we have the ability most times to make our own decisions. However, if possible, it may not be the type of boundary where you have to cut someone off completely, but it may be a boundary you have to set in your life where you reduce the amount of time, right, in certain activities with a particular person, whether it's at work, whether it's friends, whether it's family members, whatever it is for you. And again, how you reduce it, it depends. Is this someone you're talking to every day, every week, every month, every year? Like, how often are you communicating with this person, and what is it about that interaction that's causing you distress? So those are things that you can start reflecting about and thinking about for yourself, because these are the type of things, once you know those things, you can say, hey, you know what? Maybe I need to have less interaction, or what is it? Maybe you have to do something for yourself before you go into those interactions. So maybe it's work, right? Well, maybe you have to take some deep breaths. Maybe you have to really think about your day and your self-care before you get into that environment, right? You have to decide for you. There's some people on your team, whether it's work, whether it's family, whether it's friends, who are supportive for you and who want to help you if you're willing to ask for help. And there's some individuals who, of course, are not supportive, right? So making that distinction for you, right? And then the other part to think about is, when it comes to setting boundaries, what is it that you need? I know we keep going back to this often on Mental Health Moment, but what is it that you need for you What are you looking for at this point in your life? Do you need the peace of mind? Are you looking for more joy? Are you looking for more time? Are you looking for more money? Are you looking to lose weight, right? Like, what is your major goal? And is this person, place, situation, social media, whatever it is, contributing to what you need to accomplish your mental health goal? Right? That's another question to ask yourself. So one of you said in here, social media, right? For social media is stressful for many different reasons for people. Sometimes it's too violent. Sometimes it shows us so many things that is unrealistic and it may make us feel bad. We might be anxious. We might be depressed. We might be angry or whatever it is, right? Just too much of that overwhelm with social media, right? So then okay, maybe I need to take a break. And I've taken social media breaks myself at times. So maybe for you, it's a half a day, a full day, a week, a month, whatever amount of time that you feel like you need to reset. The major thing that I want you to think about today when you think about setting these boundaries is, what is the healthiest and realistic, big asterisk on realistic, what is the healthiest and most realistic way that you can set a boundary in your life currently for that situation that you put in the chat, right? What is the most healthiest and realistic way that you can set this boundary, right? In your life right now with whatever particular thing is bringing you so much overwhelm or stress, right? So again, I mentioned that example before. Sometimes for me, it's social media. I know, honestly, there's certain stories, there's certain news cycles, certain situations. I'm like, you know what? Let me take a break. I choose to not watch certain really violent things or things that I know that are going to be violent. They have trigger warnings, all sorts of things. I'm like, okay, skip, right? Not today. Like, that's one of the boundaries I've set in my life. I'm like, okay, not today. Let me skip that. Let me go to more of the inspirational things, motivational things, the things that are going to uplift me today. Cause I can't. And then other days, it might be like, you know what, let me just see what's happening in the world, right? But that is a boundary depending on, maybe it's a week, a month, or whatever it is that I'm going through when it comes to social media that I have to set, and taking those breaks as needed, right? Another boundary that I've set, one of the things for me now at this point in my life, a non-negotiable, is self-care. So no matter how crazy, busy, the travel, the everything happening in my life, a non-negotiable is I have to put in some form of self-care. Otherwise, I cannot do my little crazy schedule that I have in my life to begin with. So that's a non-negotiable. That is a boundary I have for myself. It doesn't necessarily impact anyone else, but that's a commitment, I should say, that I made for myself, right? So that is a boundary, because sometimes it might affect certain interactions. I have to have the self-care, right? So thinking about those sort of things, what is the healthiest and most realistic thing that you can do when you think about setting these boundaries in your life? No judgment, by the way. Some situations, whether it's family, friends, work, or whatever else, is difficult to let go. I know we see it all the time. It's such a buzz phrase, let it go. And it's like, yeah, you can, but it's a process. It takes time, and that's okay. It really just is. Yes, you should, but in the time frame that you need. Sometimes you might even need a mental health professional, which is completely okay, right? To get through whatever it is that you need to get through and go through that process of letting go. But yes, very, very good. If you're setting boundary in that way, maybe for you, I used to be like this, not so much now, but in the past, just saying yes to so many things. That can also lead to you being overwhelmed, being burned out, saying no without making excuses. Like, you're allowed to not say yes to everything. Or you can say yes to as many things as you want if that brings you joy, if that brings you peace of mind, if that's on your goal list, if that's something you want to truly do, right? So what happens if you try to set a boundary and your friend or family member or whomever else doesn't want to accept it? Well, of course, that's going to cause conflict. So you have to decide, how are you going to manage that conflict resolution? How are you going to manage that conflict? What is your conflict resolution? However, I will say it probably will vary for you depending on who the person is, right? If you're really, really close to this person, hopefully it's easier to have that conversation about, listen, I'm working on changing myself. Like, sometimes people can hear that. I'm working on changing myself. I'm working on being a better version of me. I'm setting up some boundaries right now. Everybody's heard boundaries, right? I'm setting up some boundaries right now. And listen, I need to do this at this stage of my life, right? Now, if it's not a person you're as close to, like a coworker or someone you don't know well, that might be a little bit harder for that person to understand. But nonetheless, for you, you have to do what's best for you. So just know, and I'm glad you brought that up, sometimes people are not going to be happy for you, sadly. Sometimes people are not going to be happy when you change for the better, sadly. But you have to do what's best for you. You have to set the boundaries. If it is good for your mental health, set the boundary. If I talk to 10 different moms that said, you know what, one mom might be like, I'm supporting my adult till they're however many years old and their kids and whoever else. If that works for you, you do that. But the next mom may say, you know what, absolutely not. I have a certain point. I want to stop financially supporting my child, my adult child, and my grandkids or whoever. If that is for you, that is for you. The next person might be back and forth, whatever it is for you that works best for your mental health and hopefully does not hurt too many people around you. That is what you need to do to set that boundary for you. Actually, I know a lot of colleagues that do that. They have that do not disturb on. They have a certain time of night, whatever time it is, 8, 9, or whatever time it is for them, they put on that do not disturb. They don't take phone calls. They don't check emails or anything like that. Because again, they want to have that me time or they want to have that family time or whatever it is. So again, whatever it is for you, you do it. For me, I am, y'all know, for those of you who are not new to mental health, I'm not really a morning person, but I have been getting up slightly earlier, and I do say slightly earlier in the morning. And that for me is a little bit more of some me time because I have gotten back into doing my devotionals. You all know, maybe some of you know, I do my gratitude practice and those sorts of things in the morning. So for sure, setting that boundary, right? Setting out blocks of time for you during the day, whether it's at night, like this one person said, whether it's the morning, your lunchtime, whatever time for you. Sometimes that carving out that, even if it's just a small amount of time for you, is really important. That's another example of setting a boundary, putting you first, right? Putting your self-care first. There's so many studies, you all, so many studies that show the walking, the exercising, all those sorts of things. They're not just helping you physically, they're helping you mentally, they're helping you emotionally. For some of you, it may be helping you spiritually, right? So there's so many benefits to that. So please take the time to move your body. Really important. And again, we all have different communication styles. So first of all, I love what you all are sharing in the chat. Just know you may be reading that like, oh, I would never do that. That's okay. Or you might be like, that's exactly what I would do, right? And it's okay. We all have different communication styles, right? But again, it's setting the boundaries that work for you. The most important thing, if you learn anything from today's mental health moment, is to set the boundaries. How it is done, how exactly you communicate, it's completely up to you. What is it that does not does not cause you to be overly angry or overly depressed or overly anxious or having those huge emotions that are so difficult? It's running up your blood pressure, it's getting you sick, it's getting you depressed. Like, what is right? What is that healthy place? What is that healthy boundary for you? That's what, and you may not know the answer today, which is okay. But take the time to really reflect this week and think about, for you, man, what do I need to put into place? And some of you may have already have put those things into place, which is amazing. The first thing you do in the morning, super important, you all. I changed my life. I think it was last year. Yeah, I'm going on year 2 now, with not just waking up and heading straight to Instagram or straight to emails or just running off and starting my day, and just really taking some quiet time for my gratitude practice and now my devotionals, and just centering myself before I start the day. So I love to hear that. Very important. Yes, your mental health is super, super important. So good for you. Remember, there's a lot of different steps to this when it comes to setting boundaries. Sometimes you can set a boundary. It absolutely, positively, unfortunately, will not work because another individual in your life is maybe extremely toxic, and it just doesn't work because they don't respect the boundary, and you've tried and tried and tried, right? So sometimes, depending on your situation, you may need a mental health professional to really sit down and maybe discuss other options, or maybe discuss whatever the situation is. This other person in your life may or may not go into counseling with you, or maybe you're doing individual counseling or whatever it is, but talking to someone else sometimes, or maybe it's a family member, a friend, person at a place of worship, or whoever it is. This other family member, this other individual can really help you process that, right? And think about, man, hey, have you thought about this, or this, right? But there's 9 times out of 10, there usually is a solution for a lot of different problems. It just feels sometimes when we're overwhelmed, like there's no way out, but there oftentimes it really is. And in every aspect of your life, there's an opportunity to set boundaries, whether it's in dating, whether it's employment, whether it's your own kids, grandkids, friends, social media, mental health, self-care, whatever it is. There's a lot of different ways for you to think about setting your boundaries. Make sure I know we talked about earlier in the chat, or you talked about earlier in the chat, some of the areas that you're overwhelmed with. Don't forget about yourself too, to set that boundary for yourself. Like this person said, putting the phone on do not disturb, having at least 1 minute, 60 seconds out of your day to take a minute, just a minute. I know we're all busy, minimum. you have to have that time to reset, recharge. You're allowed to have that time. Man, I wish I could share all easy advice, or I shouldn't say advice, but all easy tips on mental health moment. But it just is exactly what you said. Some things are really difficult. Some individuals are harder than others to set boundaries with, right? Depending on their personalities. But we have to make an attempt, right? You have to do what works for you, do what's best for your mental health, make as many attempts as possible, and think about, and again, what you think about today might not be the same in 6 months to a year. So just constantly be reflecting, man, how can I better myself? How can I be better than yesterday? How can I show up for myself? How can I show up for those around me? Those are the questions I want you to think about. When it comes to therapy, I will say the most important thing, a lot of people ask me, how do I know when I'm with a good therapist or not? Well, one of the most important things is to make sure you're connected to that person. Make sure you trust them. Make sure you feel comfortable with them. That's a really important thing in therapy. If you don't, after a couple sessions, you could talk about this with the therapist, but you may need to find a new therapist, and that's completely okay. But when you do find the person that you trust, you feel comfortable with, you feel heard, you feel understood, it can really be a very beautiful process. A lot of people have a hard time when you change for the better. People have a hard time with that sometimes. So if you're a person, and no judgment, there's no judgment on mental health moment, but if you are a person that has struggled over time with boundaries, and people know that, when you do start to set boundaries, it's hard for people. They're going to be like, you changed. Like, what happened to you? Who are you? Like, they're going to be shocked, sadly, right? They're going to be shocked. And people don't always respond well to that, to setting boundaries, saying like, no, I can't be engaged in this, or no, I can't do this, or, whatever it is that you need to send the boundary for. People don't always respond well to that. However, like you just mentioned, you found something that worked for you. And over time, people realize, wait a minute, you changed, right? Like, you've changed, things are different. And sometimes it takes a while, but people start to respect the boundaries. And again, what brings you peace, what brings you joy is really different. When I think about way long ago as a teenager, right? When I think about what brought me joy then, it's a lot different than now. I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a speaker, I'm an author, I'm running a private practice. Like, there's all these things that I do now, and what brings me joy now is a lot different than what brought me joy as a teenager, and probably what's going to bring me joy in 20 years from now, right? So that we always have to be reflecting again, like, where are we trying to go now with our joy? How are we trying to be better, right? And having that growth mindset. Listen, you all, if you're working in an office setting, even if for some odd crazy reason you just have a hectic day, if you're getting out of your seat, if you're walking around your office, listen, I have done this myself. Some of those days in the office, if you're whatever it is that you're doing, just some sort of movement, stretching, something to move your body, that counts too. Everything counts. So wonderful. If you haven't already, try to start your morning. I have colleagues that wake up at 3, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. and all the things. Great. I'm not advocating for that, because I'm not doing that myself. I am not waking up at 3 or 4 a.m. Maybe one day I will. But you do what's best for you. I'm a night owl, so I can stay up late. But those 3 or 4 a.m. time periods right now in my life, a little tricky. But nonetheless, the point is, do what works for you. If it's the early morning hours, do that. Whatever it is, but make sure you start your day, at least, no matter what time you're waking up. Make sure you start your day with something powerful, with telling yourself positive things, whether you do have a spirituality practice, gratitude practice, or whatever it is for you. Make sure you start your day powerfully and intentionally. Very important. And again, that's setting a boundary for yourself as well. If you can't set the boundaries that you would like to set, the best thing you can do for you, if you can't control certain things we can't control, is to work on your sense of self, your own self-care. How do you mentally and emotionally get through this situation? If there's counseling, if there's personal place of worship, friend, family, or whoever it is that you have for support, those sorts of things are really, really going to be important for you. Thank you guys so much. So remember, when it comes to setting boundaries, do what works for you. Please set the appropriate boundaries for yourself, whether it's just boundaries for yourself that you need to work on, or social media, or friends or family. I think someone said caregiving, whatever it is for you that is in a place of overwhelm right now. Think about how you can set the appropriate boundary, again, to show up for the best version of who you are for yourself, and also to help those around you. If you all have any questions, you can always go to drnekeshiahammond.com, or you can connect with me on any social media platform. If you need a mental health resource, send me a message. I'll do my best to find one in your area. But yes, if you need me, you know where to reach me. I will be back. Have an amazing week, you all. And tomorrow night is Wednesday night, so obviously not mental health moments, but I am proud to announce I will be at the Beyonce concert. Very excited about that in Tampa. I know it's going to be very crowded, but I heard the show is very good, so I'm super excited about that. That's my win of the week, excitement of the week. So I will be doing that. And for those of you who follow me on Instagram, I will be, of course, in the Instagram stories highlighting the concert. So super excited about that. You can always watch the replay on Dr. Nekeshia Hammond YouTube as well. Have a great week. I'll see you all next week. Bye, you guys.